The Dunning-Kruger effect has been described as a learning theory, but it's probably more accurate to describe it as simply an observation about learning behaviors. The two lines here compare perceived ability to actual ability as people progress from being a novice on the left to being an expert on the right. This effect illustrates a well-established fact that the majority of novice learners will overestimate their abilities, and at some point, as we approach expertise, that equation flips and we actually tend to underestimate our skills. This is another illustration of the same concept, and this one illustrates what happens to our confidence levels as we gain knowledge. You can probably recognize this pattern in many of your students if you teach, or even in yourself, because this is very characteristic of most human beings in the learning process. We start out knowing nothing and usually aware of our ignorance. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing, they say. And this is sometimes described as that stage where you don't know what you don't know. As our knowledge increases, we begin to realize what we don't know, and our confidence actually drops. As the amount of information we realize we don't know grows, we risk falling into been called the educational valley of despair. You've all had students, if you're a teacher, who talk to you at this point thinking they're not smart enough, they'll never remember all those drugs and dosages, they'll never remember all this information. There's a lack of confidence because it becomes very overwhelming. But if we can move through that, or if we can support students to move through that stage, at some point we start gaining some confidence. We start increasing our level of understanding. We start gaining the confidence back again and start realizing what's going on. And with enough experience and with enough expertise, we find some balance. We find increased awareness of what we do and don't know, a better awareness of the amount of things we don't know, a capacity and a capability to be very effective in what we do, but a caution that comes with realizing that there's still more to this and it can be complicated. This is an important principle to keep in mind as you're developing teaching materials, and especially as you're working with individual students to try to identify where they are on their learning process, where they need support along that learning path, and how you can provide the tools that are going to work best for them. Because the same tools are not going to work the same way for students who are at different points in this learning curve.